All right. I think everyone can hear me now. Welcome. We are glad that you are with us today. If you will just reply in the chat for me and let me know that you are able to hear. That way we will know that everything is working well this morning. Perfect. All right. Well, welcome. Sorry about the slow start there. Also want to welcome someone who will be with us today. Haley is with us, and I'll introduce her in just a moment, but you'll be hearing her shortly. Glad that you are all with us. Looks like we have about 127 of us on thus far. 128 of us now. So glad to have you all with us. I'll be going around the annual conference this week. So for those of you who are not with us today or with us in person at one of our other presentations this week, we will record this, and this will be available on the website as well. If anyone is struggling with sound, then click in the window, in the presentation window, or refresh your screen. And if others of you will do me a favor, if anyone else says that, just kind of put that in the chat because I'm going to get focused on some other things here shortly. Looks like we're up to about 135 of us now, so that is fantastic. We're going to go ahead and get started. So what are we going to do today? Well, we're going to look at the employee assistance plan that is beginning October 1st. And Haley is actually going to tell us some about that in just a moment. Then we're going to look at Compass, our brand new retirement plan that is coming out effective January 1st. Then we're going to release our health insurance rates for 2026. We're going to release the pastor support worksheet, and I will walk through exactly what the changes are and do a quick little training on how we can work through the pastor support worksheet in the best possible way. So with that, if you don't know me, my name is Knox Wimberly. I am the current chairperson of the Holston Conference Board of Pensions and Health Benefits. And we, of course, are sponsoring this webinar, and we are so glad that you are with us today. So we are going to begin with the new employee assistance plan that does begin on October 1st. And it is provided by Uliance, and Haley is with Uliance, and you'll be hearing about that in a minute. This is something that we are including without cost to you. It's a new benefit, and it is provided for all active and retired clergy families in Holston, whether you are full-time or part-time. If you are active clergy or retired clergy, you and your household are going to be covered by this, even if you are not on our insurance plan. And if you are on our insurance plan, you're definitely covered. So this will also be provided for all permanent full-time conference and district staff and camping staff if you are permanent. So that is a pretty wide range. I think we have somewhere between 11 and 1,200 households rather, that we are enrolling in this plan, and it will roll out effective October 1st. And so with that, I am going to turn it over to Haley, and Haley, you can probably see how you can click your slides forward on the screen here, but I will turn it over to Haley, who is from Uliance, and she is going to share with us exactly what this new benefit looks like.
Oh, thank you so much, Knox. I appreciate everybody being here today. Thank you all so much for having me. And I'm just going to double check and make sure that you can hear me. All right, awesome. Thank you for confirming that. Yes, so as Knox has shared with you all, this benefit is eligible beginning the very 1st of October, and it is kind of in tandem with your healthcare benefits. So I'm going to be reviewing some of those additional benefits that you all have available through Uliance beginning in October. So if you're not familiar with what an EAP is we are an employee assistance program, but I like to look at it as more as, you know, we are a bridge that helps when you are dealing with life's challenges. So all of the benefits that I'm going to be reviewing, you might be able to tie into a personal experience that you've had. You know, we all experience stress, hard times. It's just kind of a part of being a human being on earth, right? We're going to run into some bumps and some challenges along the way. You all have a fantastic community that you're a part of. So just consider Uliance an extension of that community, and we're here to help you kind of navigate some of life's hurdles as they come up. As Knox said, this is not just available to you all, but it's available to your family as well. So spouses, live-in partners, if you haven't quite committed to spousalhood yet, everybody that lives in the household can really access this benefit. Children under the age of 27 can also access the full range of benefits that I'm going to be reviewing with you all here. There's nothing that you all have to do to enroll. You're already automatically enrolled, no paperwork, which is one of my favorite parts about the EAP program, is that you don't have to fill out a form to access us. And another really big key piece of our benefit is that it's issue-based. So what I mean by that is when a new issue comes up, you can re-engage in the benefit time and time again, just as new hurdles come your way. If you've used the counseling before, you can use it again. We're not going to cut you off from accessing services just because you've used it before. So now I'm going to kind of go into how do you get connected with us. It's very easy. All you have to do is call this 800 number, and I'm going to be kind of referencing this 800 number a few times throughout my spiel here. But when you call in, you'll speak with a consultant just about what you're going through, maybe what you're looking for. This line is available 24/7, so whenever you want to reach out, you can get connected with us. The consultant will assess your concerns and then provide support, information, or resources based on what you're looking for. And then, most importantly, this is a completely confidential service. We operate under HIPAA guidelines, just like your doctors do. So everything that you share with us stays completely confidential. It doesn't get outside that Alliance bubble. This is a list of some of the benefits that I'm going to be reviewing today. So just a little sneak peek of what's to come. Think about times in your life where you might have needed a community resource, or had a financial or a legal question, or maybe needed some free confidential counseling. Now you have a resource that is designed specifically with you in mind. So our counseling services are probably the most popular piece of the benefit that we offer. We don't have a fixed visit model, so when you call into the 800 number, you speak with our consultant. Maybe you share that you want some individual counseling, or maybe you and your spouse are going through a hard time and you want some couples counseling. They'll connect you with a provider in your area over the phone or via video. If it's a little bit more challenging for you to get out of the house, that's okay. We want to meet your needs. So when you share a little bit about what you're looking for, they'll get you connected with a counselor. And the counselor and you or your partner can determine how many sessions might be the right fit to get you through that really challenging hurdle that you're going through right now. It's not going to be a fixed visit model. It's not a maximum of 3 or 5 sessions. It's really up to you and your counselor to determine how many sessions you might need. Best part about it, if you go through us, if you call that 800 number to get connected with a counselor, it's going to be free, and again, completely confidential, so that you have free counseling available to you and your family. Kind of on the other side of the counseling coin, we have coaching services. So if there's an area of your life that you want to grow or develop new skills, the coaching might be a really good fit for you. Maybe you want some help in your communication techniques, or maybe you have a habit that you want some assistance stopping. You know, I am somebody who loves to eat chocolate at 10 p.m. at night. That's not always the healthiest before bedtime routine. So the coaches can help you kind of create a personalized plan to meet your goals in a way that's going to work for you. Again, if you go through us, through that 800 number, this is free, it's confidential, and it's really accessible. You can meet with our coaches over the phone or via video, really whenever it's convenient for you. And again, it's for the whole family. So if you have a kiddo that's getting ready to go to college and you know their study habits might need a little bit of improvement, this might be a really good resource for them. Okay, we offer 24/7 crisis intervention support. Things happen, you know, we experience really a wide range of emotions as human beings, and sometimes we need some support in the middle of the night or on a weekend, and we're not really sure who to call. You can always call us at Alliance through that 800 number, and somebody will always be there to answer if you need somebody to talk to. It's confidential again, so it stays right there in that conversation, and it doesn't go anywhere else. We also have a language line. So if you have a family member that maybe speaks a language other than English, that's okay. You can still call us and get connected to support. And one of my favorite things about our crisis line is that once you speak with that consultant and you get de-escalated, they might be able to connect you with the counselor right there in the call. So you don't have to make a second phone call, go through the whole process again. It's really easy to get connected with services that you might be looking for. Okay, we also have a whole database of resources that we can refer you guys to. I don't know if you've ever tried to find a community resource, but it is time consuming to find the right fit. It can take up a whole afternoon. We want to give you that time back. So you call us at that 800 number, and you might be looking for maybe some support groups on grief, or maybe you need some childcare resources, or you have an aging parent and you want some resources for them. You can call us at the 800 number, let us know what you're looking for, and we'll send you a list of resources in your area that you can follow up on that kind of meets the need that you're looking for. So it gives you your very valuable time back. All right, on to some of my favorite pieces of our benefit that we offer. We offer free financial consultations. So when you call us at the 800 number, you let the consultant know that you want to get connected with a financial consultant. They'll send you the name, phone number, and email address of a financial consultant in your area. Once you get connected with that consultant, you'll get a 30-minute free consultation on whatever it is that you might be seeking support with. It's really helpful for debt management if you need to rebudget your finances, or you just have some questions and want some expert advice on maybe a big financial decision that you're up against, buying a house, buying a new car, trying to figure out how to put your kid in braces. All of these financial stressors can really take a toll on you, but you don't have to do it alone. You can have information from our expert financial consultants. Anything after that 30-minute mark, you get a 15% discount. And again, it's issue-based. So you can use it now, you can use it next year if a new issue pops up, or in 6 months, whatever you need, we're there to help you through it. So the legal consultations are structured in a very similar way. You call us at the 800 number, you'll get a referral to a lawyer in your area, and then once you're connected with that lawyer, your 30-minute free consultation will begin. This can be very helpful if you have a document that you want reviewed. Maybe you have a loved one who is maybe in a really challenging relationship with their landlord, and they want their lease reviewed. Or you want to get a very simple will worked up so that your end of life care is documented. You can do all this through our 30-minute free consultations with a lawyer. Anything after that 30 minutes is a 25% discount, which if you know anything about lawyer hourly rates, they get pricey. So that 25% discount, it definitely doesn't hurt. Just a reminder of the process: you call the 800 number, you'll get connected with the lawyer, and then your 30 minutes will begin. And you can use it time and time again. We offer some identity theft monitoring services through a partner called IDIQ. This is an opt-in service. So, as soon as you click our Life Advisor link, some shady software doesn't get downloaded onto your computer. You would have to move through the Life Advisor website to find the IDIQ link. And then once you're on their website, you can enter in any information that you want them to be monitoring for you. It could be really helpful to just have a second pair of eyes and ears on your credit card or debit card information to make sure no nefarious activity is happening. Or, if you should happen to lose your wallet, you let IDIQ know. They will lock all of your information that you've asked them to monitor for you, so that nothing gets charged while you're searching for your wallet. I know I lose my wallet from time to time, and it is a stressful experience. So this is really just designed to help you have that peace of mind when you need it. Okay, we also offer a discount program. So if you ever have something fun on the horizon, I really recommend checking this website out. They do bundles on hotel, flights, car rentals all the time. I've gotten free flights through them, so it can definitely help you save your money so that you can spend it doing more fun things with your family. They also offer different excursions like going to movies, concerts, comedy shows, theme parks. They are constantly changing up their roster of discounts that they offer. I know that they just did a big back to school campaign with discounts on back to school supplies. So this is a really, really helpful website to check out if you should ever want to get a sweet discount on anything fun that you're looking forward to. All right, guys, thanks for hanging in there with me. I've just got one more piece of the puzzle to talk about. I've mentioned this website a couple times, but this is just the Alliance website. It's called lifeadvisor.com. It's very easy to get signed in. All you need to do is log in with the Holston Conference name and the city where Holston Conference is kind of housed out of. So it could be Knox, it could be Alcoa. I'm probably saying that wrong, and I do apologize for that. But it should be very simple to get signed in. And if you ever have any issues, there's a login help at Alliance option. You can email us directly for some troubleshooting assistance. But on our website, you can see more information about any of the benefits I've reviewed here with you. We have a whole library of resources that you can kind of search and use at your disposal. So if you want tips on stress, time management, parenting tips, and you want to do a little research on your own time, we have a whole library there for you, plus some fun activities if you do decide to take your health journey a little bit deeper and you want to create your own personal profile. You can track your wellness journey through self-assessments, journaling, health trackers. We've got lots of tools on the website for you all to take real advantage of whatever you might be wanting to do as far as your health and wellness. All right, y'all, and I'm just going to review some of those big pieces here. This benefit, you don't have to do any paperwork to fill it out. You do have to be participating in your health benefit, your health insurance benefit to be considered eligible for this. You can call us at the 800 number if you have any questions or concerns about this benefit and to get connected with some of those resources. It's free, it's confidential, it's available for you and your family members, so consider this a benefit for the whole family. And I will just leave you all with that phone number up on the screen. I recommend putting it into your cell phones, writing it down so you have it available. And thank you all so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, Haley, for joining us today. And I am aware that many of you are having trouble downloading the Compass overview. I am actually re-uploading that now. And I just re-uploaded that, so it should work a little bit better. And it looks like we have a couple of questions that are here. And so I am actually going to put these up here for us. Give just a moment. Okay, first question, and Haley, this one is for you. How does one become a provider for Alliance?
Oh, Kathy, that is such a great question. Sorry, I'm looking at the QA as well, so we asked that. Kathy, if you're interested in becoming a provider with us, you can call that 800 number and just let them know that you're interested in being a provider. They'll connect you with one of the supervisors who can kind of initiate that process for you. Thank you for wanting to be a part of our network. I really appreciate that. Okay.
Awesome. All right. A couple of these other questions are probably going to be for me. So let me grab these real quick. First question is, are all of these benefits only for those who are on the conference pension and health plan? And Richard, and I'm going to cue Don's question in with that, which is, if you are not on the conference health plan but a full-time pastor, is it available? And so all active clergy and all retired clergy and their households, whether you are on our health plan or not, are actually eligible for the Alliance EAP. So we're rolling that benefit out to all active clergy and all retired clergy that are a part of the Holston Annual Conference. That is regardless of whether you are on the health plan or not. Anne's question relates to lay employees. Lay employees, if you are on the health plan, are also enrolled. If you are a lay employee of a local church within our annual conference and not on the health plan, then you are not enrolled in the EAP. Frankly, we don't even have your information in the benefits office. And so if you are enrolled in the health plan as a lay employee of one of our local churches, then we have also enrolled you into this special benefit for the EAP. If you are a direct conference or district employee, permanent employee, or camping employee, again, permanent employee, whether or not you're on the health plan, we have enrolled you into the EAP. So hopefully that answers the question. If I did not answer your particular nuance, or you don't feel like I did, feel free to follow that up. But this is a fantastic question. Laura also asking, State Street United Methodist Church has several lay employees enrolled in the conference health insurance plan. And yes, Laura, they are eligible for these benefits. All lay employees that are enrolled in the health plan, we've also enrolled into Alliance. Mickey, retirees are also eligible for Alliance. So retirees of Holston are eligible as well. And so I think I have answered the questions. If I missed any, go ahead and put them back in the Q&A, and we'll do that. And by the way, throughout the presentation today, if you have any questions, putting those into the Q&A is the best place to put those, because I will for sure see those. Paul's asking about clergy spouses who are not on the health plan. And so clergy spouses of active or retired clergy are a part of the household, and the entire household is covered. So for example, well, actually I'm a bad example because my wife is also active clergy, but we'll pretend like she's not for the moment. And if Paige were not active clergy, she would still be covered because she's a part of my household. Likewise, my 15-year-old daughter is covered under this as well, and would be even as she goes into college up until she's age 26. So your household is covered if you fit the coverage definition, meaning that you are active or retired clergy, or you are a direct conference, district, or camping permanent employee, or you are enrolled in our health plan. If you meet any of those, then you are enrolled in this new benefit that we are providing. So thank you for those questions. This is a brand new benefit. We know that this is exciting, and we're excited to roll this out. I do want to mention that the Holston Center for Wellbeing is still around. And so this does not prevent or prohibit you in any way from taking part of the services provided from the Holston Center for Wellbeing. This just expands some of those benefits to go beyond who is eligible for that, and also makes it super accessible for some of our rural pastors who may not be able to access things quite as easily, because there will be video options, Zoom type thing. There will be text options and other options that, as well as in-person options, that will enable you to be a part. Again, there is no cost to any of our participants for this. This is a benefit that is being provided by the Holston Conference Board of Pensions and Health Benefits. And so we are doing this and excited to offer this, and hope that this will be helpful around the annual conference. So looks like we may have one more question thrown in here. Part-time licensed local pastors, whether you're on the health plan or not, would be eligible because you are active clergy in the Holston Annual Conference. And so we have enrolled you, or I guess I should say are enrolling you, as of October 1st. We've already sent your information, but you will be enrolled as of October 1st into this new benefit. So we're excited to offer this. Haley, thank you so much for joining us today and being with us. You're welcome to hang out if you want to, or to disappear. I'm going to start talking retirement, so that doesn't really fit you, but you are welcome to be here. Jim is asking, what org and city do you use? And so, Jim, it's not going to be active for us until October 1st. So if you try it today, it's not going to work, but I will let Haley answer what you will use then.
Yeah, it's a great question. So you could use Holston Conference and Alcoa, ALCOA, when you get signed in.
Perfect.
Good
We're
question.
also going to have the district names available to be used as well. So Jim happens to be in the New River District. I know that because I too
okay,
live in the New River District. And so Jim, you would also be able to use New River in that case as well. And that'll be true for all of our districts, right? Whether you're in New River or Clinch or Appalachian or Scenic South or Smoky Mountain or Tennessee Valley, whatever district you are in, those will be available as well. All right, we are going to shift into Compass, the exciting world of our new retirement plan. So I know that this is something that lots of people have interest in. And so I am going to actually switch display modes here and pull up my physical computer so that I can share some of the animations. But first of all, what do we have under management? And for some reason, my mouse quit working. I hate it when that happens. All right. Guess we won't be doing it that way. That's okay. We'll do it this other way. All right. So what do we have under management? Well, we still have our pre-82 plans. So for all of those retirees who had years of service prior to 1982, I am not in that category, but my father, who is a retired elder out of the Louisiana Conference, is, right? And so many of you who are already retired may have pre-82 service years, and the pre-82 plan does not change in any way. It's not impacted by this. Likewise, the MPP plan, or the Ministerial Pension Plan, still remains in effect for those years of service. The Clergy Retirement Security Program, or CRISP, as we often call it, and there's actually two versions of that. It got updated by General Conference along the way. It still exists, and that's actually what we're in 2025, right? So for those of us that are active right now, we are still accruing under CRISP. Many of us are also a part of the United Methodist Personal Investment Plan, or UMPIP, and we will still manage that. We also have a comprehensive protection plan. This is where we provide for disability and death benefits. And then effective January 1 of 2026, we have this brand new retirement program called Compass. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about that in just a minute. We also offer retiree moving expenses. That's a one-time benefit. And then active employee and retiree healthcare plans that are also under the purview of the Holston Conference Board of Pensions and Health Benefits. So all of this is to say, none of that other stuff that we've been doing goes away. Compass is just a new plan that will impact your years of service beginning January 1st of 2026 for active clergy. So just to be clear, it only impacts years of service that began on January 1, 2026 and moving forward. So what is Compass? We are going to watch a brief little video, and then I'll be right back. Okay, sounds like I am seeing the video and nobody else. So I hate it when that happens, and we just won't have the video. It'll be okay. So what do you want to know? Well, first of all, active clergy are going to keep their benefits that are earned under legacy plans. So the pre-82, the MPP, and CRISP, just like we talked about, right? So what that means is that for retired clergy, there's no impact. There's no changes. You're going to still receive your retirement like you always have. And who is eligible? This is a little bit of a change. So let's talk through this. But who is eligible for Compass moving forward? So again, this is January 1, 2026 moving forward. Anyone who is at 50%, 75%, or 100% in terms of your appointment will be eligible as active clergy. Now, if you are eligible, and this is a change, so everyone needs to hear this, but this is a change that rolled down with Compass. If you are eligible, then you will be automatically enrolled. So let me say that again. If you are eligible at 50, 75, or 100%, then you will be enrolled, right? And so for some of you that were not already in the WestPath system, you're going to have some paperwork to fill out, especially if you're in that 50% category. This also means that churches that have a pastor who are at 50% are now going to have costs that are related to pension, right? So all churches that are at 50 or 75 or 100% appointments are going to begin to receive a direct bill for pension benefits. There were some churches in the Holston Annual Conference that did not have a direct bill at 50% under existing programs. But moving forward, if you are served by active clergy at 50, 75, or 100%, you will receive a direct bill invoice for pension. Now, retired clergy, that's different, right? Retired clergy are not accruing years of service in this, and so they do not get a bill for pension. However, all active clergy at 50, 75, or 100% are going to receive a direct invoice under Compass. So that's an important change to note. If you happen to be a church that's at 50 or 75%, where your pastor was not previously enrolled in a retirement program with us or one of the pension programs, right? So very, very important to note that if you happen to be in one of those categories. So why Compass? Well, it's really about sustainability, affordability, adequacy, and flexibility. So lots of things that we're going to kind of talk through here. But one of the ways in which this is sustainable is that our existing plan, that's our clergy retirement system, our CRISP, right? Our existing plan has a couple of components in it. One of those components is a defined benefit, or what you would consider a traditional pension plan, meaning that for all of your years of service, you are accruing a defined benefit. Or another way to say is you're accruing a dollar amount that you're going to receive for life once you retire with each year of service. That's a defined benefit plan. It also has a piece that is a defined contribution plan, meaning that we take a portion of your retirement under CRISP and we put it into a bucket of money that you are able to manage, or WestPath can manage for you. The default is that WestPath is going to manage that for you, but you can go in and make your own elections. You can say, I want to put this all in international markets, or you can say, I want to put this all in bonds, or you can say, I want to put this all in domestic markets, right? There are ways in which you can go in and define that contribution that is accruing on your benefit, and then whatever your earnings rate is, based upon the options that you have chosen through the years, that would then determine what you get in retirement out of that defined contribution piece. So the current program, CRISP, has both the defined benefit and the defined contribution. This is good and bad, right? So let me take off my active clergy hat and put on my chairperson of the Holston Conference Board of Pensions and Health Benefits hat. The reason this is bad is that every person that has ever retired and is still alive, or has a surviving spouse still alive, or is active today and has accrued under this plan, we have a defined benefit for, meaning regardless of what the market does, regardless of anything else, we have to pay X amount on that defined benefit as they retire, ad infinitum, until they die, or until their surviving spouse dies, right? Whoever ends up living longer, depending on the options they choose at retirement. And so what this means is that we have risk as an annual conference board of pensions and health benefits. Now, the good news is we manage that risk well. You don't need to be worried. But moving forward with Compass, the defined benefit piece disappears and it's 100% defined contribution. What that means is that we are de-risking the plan. The annual conference for the years of service beginning January 1 of 2026 will no longer have risk, because your pot of money will be your pot of money. meaning we can simply pay into your pot of money and you get to accrue it. Where right now, we also have to think about on the pension side that we collect, making sure that we have the money for all of the retirees along the way, right? And so every year, we make contributions as the Holston Conference Board of Pensions and Health Benefits into our retirement plans to make sure that we can pay all of our retirees. We will continue to do that because we still have people in pre-82, still have people in MPP, still have people on both versions of CRISP. And so until the last one of us dies and or their surviving spouse, we will continue to make those payments under the defined benefit piece, right? But moving forward, for service years beginning January 1 of 2026, we will be de-risked, meaning that we will not have these past service obligations. Everything will be escrowed into your specific bucket of money. This makes us more sustainable over the long haul, regardless of what happens in the denomination, what happens with any local churches you've served, regardless of the number of clergy we have contributing to the system, regardless of any of that, your retirement will be protected because it will be escrowed into your own defined contribution bucket. So this makes the plan sustainable moving forward. That's a good thing, right? So like I said, good and bad of the defined benefit, but the defined contribution piece encompasses 100% defined contribution. The defined contribution piece will enable us to totally de-risk the plan over the long haul. So hopefully that makes sense to everybody. And John had a question, is there still the ability to sign a waiver for participating in the retirement program? And John, the answer to that is in some cases the clergy can sign the waiver, but that will not change the church's obligation for their part of the of the direct bill, right? So just like on the health plan that we have now, if you are active clergy and eligible for the health plan and you waive the health plan, your church is still going to pay the direct invoice for the health plan, right? So the pension plan is now becoming the exact same way, effective January 1, 2026. And this is a change that rolled down with Compass from General Conference. So John, I hope that answered your question. That's a yes and a no, right? So the clergy can still opt. I don't know why you would, but the clergy could still opt to not receive the benefit, but the church is still going to pay. So hopefully that makes sense and answered your question. We also have another question. Okay, that one doesn't relate. If a church has been participating in the pension plan, they will now receive a direct bill for pension payment. That is correct, James. And so that is absolutely correct. If a church has been participating, you're going to receive a direct bill for the pension payment. And that actually includes the personal contribution amount as well. So let me go ahead and say that, historically with UMPIP, Westpath has billed the church. So I serve Auburn United Methodist Church in Rhino, Virginia. I contribute to UMPIP like nearly all of our active clergy, and Westpath collects that directly from Auburn, from my local church, right? And that's the way that has worked. January 1 to 2026, that changes. And even your personal contributions actually won't be to UMPIP anymore. It'll be to Compass. But even your personal contributions will appear on your direct invoice from the annual conference, on your direct bill. So no longer will you pay that to Westpath, your local church. That will now be paid directly on the direct invoice to the annual conference. And we, in turn, pay Westpath. So that is a change that is occurring with Compass. Absolutely. Donna's asking for clarity. 1/4 time active clergy are not eligible for Compass. And if you're in a 1/4 time appointment, then there is no direct invoice for either health or pension for 1/4. So for the pension side, it's going to start at halftime. It actually starts at 3/4 time on the health side. So hopefully that answers your questions about that. Y'all are having great questions. I appreciate y'all asking questions. That's what we're doing this for today, is to help everybody to get all of their questions answered. Also appreciate all of you here. We have 167 of us that are present today. And I know that there are some people who there's more than one person even on the connection. So that's fantastic. And we still have several of these to go around the annual conference. So pleased that you are availing yourself to learn about this. It's important for those of us who are active and for our treasurers, our finance people, our SPR chairs. We all need to be aware of the new benefits. Affordability is another big piece here, right? So the affordability is super important. We want to be able to afford over the long haul our plan, whether that's at the personal level, for me as an active clergy, whether that's at the local church level, whether that's at the annual conference level, right? We want to be able to afford this. So one of the great things, by the way, is your direct invoice is going down from 16.3% that it's historically been to 14% January 1. Bruce is saying, say your answer about direct payment again. I'm confused. I think, Bruce, that your question relates to the payment that has been going to WestPath for UMPIP will no longer go to WestPath starting January 1 of 2026. Those personal contributions that are withheld from the clergy person's check will actually be now a part of the direct bill from the annual conference. And so those will be included, just like the church portion of the pension and the church and clergy portion of the health insurance. Now the clergy contribution that is also withheld from the check, that part that has gone to WestPath, starting January 1 of 2026, that will no longer go to WestPath. That will be included on the direct invoice from the annual conference, and more specifically from the Board of Pensions and Health Benefits. So, Bruce, I think I answered your question. If I didn't, then ask a clarifying question, then I'll try again. All right. The other thing that is important about this is it's going to give us flexibility, right? And the reason it's going to be flexible is that it's a defined contribution bucket, right? And you will have the flexibility to decide how that's invested. And so you're going to have more flexibility and more control over your funds because they will be escrowed specifically into your account, as opposed to being a part of a pool at the annual conference level. So this gives you more flexibility and adequacy to make sure that we can support all of our clergy over the long haul. So I hope this is making sense to everybody of why General Conference made these adjustments and put in Compass. So let's talk about how it actually works, the mechanics of it, right? So first of all, it's going to be automatic. We're going to automatically enroll you this. That's fantastic. On the back end, at the annual conference level, we are going to send in 2026 $150 per month per active clergy person. Now that's actually going to be adjusted for inflation each year, so it will grow at about 2% per year, but depending on your appointment percentage, but $150 per month is what it will be in 2026. In addition to that, we're going to give 3% of whatever your pensionable compensation is. And by the way, that pensionable compensation includes the value of your housing. So if you're on a cash housing allowance, it's going to be your base compensation plus your cash housing allowance in most cases. If you're in a parsonage like I am, I live in a parsonage, then it's going to be the base compensation times 135%, meaning that the value of the parsonage is assigned at 35% added to the base compensation, and then we're going to take 3% of that. In addition to that, we're going to match your personal contributions dollar for dollar up to 4%. So all of this is going to happen on the back end automatically from the annual conference level. But we will be sending these amounts into your account. We're going to look at the breakdown of this again in just a minute, but we'll be sending this into your escrow defined contribution bucket at WestPath. Now, we are still going to bill you on your direct invoice. Historically, that's been at 16.3%. Effective January 1 of 2026, that is going to be at 14%, right? And so that'll be the way that works. And let's talk about, how did we get to the 14%? Knox, what's this whole 14% about? I'm confused. Well, part of it is that the comprehensive protection plan, remember that's the disability and the life insurance benefits, cost us about 3%. So we put in 3% for the CPP, or the comprehensive protection plan, right? Then we put in that 3% contribution that we just talked about on the previous slide. And we are going to put in that $150 adjusted annually for inflation with a $60,000 salary. That's right at 3%. Right? And then we're going to do a 4% match, because all of you are going to contribute at least 4% because you're not dumb and you don't want to lose money. Right? And so you're going to contribute at least 4%, and we're going to enroll you automatically at 4% unless you select something higher on your past social support worksheet. We'll look at that in a bit. And then we have to have some amount to cover our other retirement plans and administration and that sort of thing. So this leaves only about 1% to help us to be able to cover our previous retirement plans. Anyone who's slow in paying their bills, and if you're in that category, fix that for me, please. And our administrative piece, right? So we don't have a lot of room there. But that's how the 14% is calculated. So if anyone has any questions about that, feel free to throw that into the Q&A, and I'll look at that a little bit further. But if you're curious how we got to 14%, that's how. 3% for the comprehensive protection plan, the 3% automatic contribution for Compass, the $150 adjusted annually for inflation, that's about 3% at a $60,000 salary, the 4% match, and then that leaves us about 1% to cover all of our other retirement plans, our obligations there, any slow pays or uncollectibles that we have, and our administration. So not a lot of overhead there, right? But that's how we're getting to the 14%. So hopefully that answers your question. We did have a couple of other questions that have come in, and I want to go ahead and kind of address those as we go. So as a quarter time, this question comes from Lisa. As a quarter time licensed local pastor, and actually I'm going to do it this way because this will be easier. As a quarter-time licensed local pastor, I contribute to the United Methodist Personal Investment Plan, or UMPIP. How will my church send those payments? And so in this scenario, that will still be true. You can still enroll in UMPIP as a quarter-time licensed local pastor. And I believe that those invoices will still come directly from Westpath. Julie, correct me in the chat if I'm wrong about that, but I think that I am correct about that. Next question that we had comes from Benjamin Harding. And okay, actually, we're going to hold off on that one. Another question here, we're going to go ahead and put this one up from Linda. Part-time local pastor, will my church receive a bill? I'm not on the health plan or the retirement plan. So if your church is, if your appointment is half-time, three-quarter time, or full-time, then your church will get a bill for pension. If your church is three-quarter time or full-time, then your church will get a bill for health insurance. So I hope that clarified it. If your church is less than half-time, then your church will not receive a direct invoice bill for pension or health insurance. So I hope that answered that question for you. We have a question that came in from Robert. Is the 14% total assuming the pastor contributed the max 4% matching portion? Yes, Robert, we are making that assumption. And even if the pastor doesn't, you're still going to pay the 14% at the church level, right? So it's thrown away money if a pastor doesn't contribute the 4%. And I can't imagine why a pastor wouldn't want that free money, right? So I don't think we're going to have that problem here in Holston. I think everyone will do at least 4%. Stephen has a question. Let me throw it up here. I have over 30 years of service, will likely retire in a few years. Will my past contributions still be on a fixed payout, and whatever I contribute after January 1 be done the Compass way? You got it, Stephen. So this does not change anything that accrued prior to 2026. That'll still accrue just like it has, still be paid just like it always has, right? So those plans are still going to be under their existing plans, ways, policies, everything will still, same options will exist there, right? And then on the Compass side, that is only for years of service that accrues beginning January 1 of 2026. Good questions today. Julie did clarify for us. I'm going to go ahead and throw it on the screen just so everyone can see. UMPIP bills will still come from Westpac directly to the church for those that are less than half time. So I was right about that, but thank you for clarifying, Julie, because it occurred to me that I was 90% sure on that, but you would know the answer for sure. So thank you, and I'm glad, Julie, that you are here to save me on that one. All right, one final question here. This one comes from Sabine. I can't put it up because it came in a private message. But some pastors are appointed such that they don't get a housing allowance or a parsonage. Is there any other additional consideration other than the base salary? So in that case, the answer would be no, because it's based on the pensionable compensation. So Sabine, in that scenario, the answer would be no. You may want to relook at your compensation plan, but that's for another matter, right? Okay. Having some great questions here. John says, can a pastor totally opt out of the retirement plan and health insurance plan if he already has these types of plans from a previous employer? So, John, yes, you can totally opt out of health. So that's that answer. On the pension side, it's going to depend on the scenario, what percentage are appointed, or whether or not you're already retired. And so, but it is not going to change whether your church gets a direct bill. Martha's saying, I opted out of the retirement plan and now I want to enroll. Can I change it? And the answer to that, Martha, is yes. You will need to reach out to Julie. Julie, if you'd stick your email address in the chat for me to reply to Martha, that'd be great. And she will help you to get re-enrolled in that effective for January 1. Okay. James is asking, how does one determine what his or her personal contribution will be to the pension plan? And so I'm going to save that question for when I get to the pastor support worksheet. But that's where that option will be selected, will be on the pastor support worksheet, James. So we will go through that as we look at the pastor support worksheet, which will come a little bit later, right? All right, perfect. Gary's asking, will retired pastors receive an invoice? No. So retired pastors are not enrolled in the pension plan, and the church also does not receive an invoice when they have a retired pastor, unless they are an early retiree. But that's not the case for you, Gary. So, but let me just give that caveat. Okay. Let me move into the magic of compounding interest. So with compounding interest, your money works for you, and time is the key. So the best time, this is an old Chinese proverb, the best time to plant an oak tree was 20 years ago, but the second best time is today, right? And so the earlier you start in your ministry, putting money aside, that money grows exponentially, as you can kind of see on the screen. But if you haven't started yet, start today. And so, Martha, I was so glad to see that you saying that you opted out of retirement plan. Now you want to change it. I'm glad, because you need those funds. We want you to have those benefits when you retire. So I was glad to see that. There are some plan features that are designed to help. We talked about the parsonage value, or I alluded to it already. So prior to January 1, 2026, which means right now, it is valued at 25%. I live in a parsonage, right? So the parsonage that I live in, my current pensionable compensation is my base times 125%, adding in that 25% for the value of the parsonage. Under Compass, it's my base times 135%. And so it's going to be valuing my parsonage at 35% of the base rather than 25% of the base for the purposes of determining the pensionable compensation. In addition, we have a new student loan provision that is going into effect with Compass, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. We also have automatic enrollment. So we're going to automatically enroll you into Compass on January 1, 2026. And this is brand new. Every year, we're going to automatically increase your percentage that you contribute by 1% until you reach 10%. So, for example, let's assume that you are a pastor that will be contributing 4% in 2026, which is what we will automatically enroll you at, unless you choose a higher percentage on your pastor support worksheet, right? Well, in year 2, so that'd be 2027, it's going to automatically escalate you to 5%. Okay? And then in 2028, it's going to automatically escalate you to 6%. In 2029, it's going to automatically escalate you to 7%, and so on until you reach 10%. And then the automatic escalation will cease. So this is a stair-step approach that helps you to get to the 10%, which is where we really want you to be in order to have adequate retirement. Okay? So let me say that again. You're going to be enrolled at 4% unless you select higher. And then it will automatically escalate by 1% per year until you reach 10%. Hopefully that was clear, but if anyone has questions, feel free to go ahead and put those into the Q&A. But this is absolutely a brand new provision that we have not had before. So this is really, really important. Julie, I don't know if Diane saw that, but Julie is saying email her, juliegraham@holston.org, and she can check on that for you. Okay. Diane Babcock has a question. She says, Westpac currently does a direct pay auto pay for our pastor. Do we have to contact them to stop them from taking the payments starting in January? No, you do not. That will automatically switch over to Compass and will come on to the plan, the direct invoice at that point, right? So all of our nearly all of our churches were moved to an automatic direct pay or auto pay ACH deal with Westpac in the last couple of years. And that will end for pastors that are now eligible for Compass. Those UMPIP contributions will be transferred to Compass for January 1, 2026. Now, in theory, this is all going to go smooth. Tell me in the chat if you think it's going to go 100% smooth in 100% of the cases. Just tell me if you think that that will be the reality in the chat. Yeah, I think there's a likelihood that there could be some hiccups here and there. And if there are, then reach out to Julie and our office will help you work through those things, right? And so that's the good news is we're here for you. Julie loves the fact that I just told everyone they can contact her. But yeah, so that's the reality. There probably will be some hiccups. Don't be shocked by that. Don't be mad by that. Doesn't mean we're mad at you. We'll get them straight. And if there are any hiccups, just reach out and we will work through those. So another question here is, how does the conference determine the value of the parsonage? Is that tax assessment website or trustees report? So for the purposes of pensionable compensation, it will simply be 35% of the base compensation. So if your base compensation, Richard, is $100,000, then it will be $35,000. If your base compensation is $50,000, then it will be $17,500. If your base compensation is $10,000, it will be $3,500. The exact same parsonage. This is not something you use on your taxes. This is simply the way that we are assigning a value for pensionable compensation purposes. And so it's simply going to be, beginning January 1, 2026, 35% of your base salary. And so that is what the value of the parsonage will be for the purposes of pensionable compensation. We had a great question from Don. Can we add more percentage points in 2026? Yes, absolutely. So on your pastor support worksheet, for example, you may want to go straight to 10, right? On your pastor support worksheet, and I'll show you how this works when we get to that, you'll be able to select the percentage that you want to contribute into Compass as your personal contribution, and that is what we will enroll you at, right? And so absolutely, if you want to do that, I applaud that. I think that is fantastic. And you can absolutely do that. Mickey pointed out, not going to be smooth for churches having direct invoicing at 50%. I agree, Mickey. That is a potential challenge area for us, right? And so I 100% agree. And as someone who has been a DS on the cabinet and is now serving as an assistant or associate DS, whatever the correct title is, you will probably get some of that fun. So I know you're excited to see that. But yeah, I agree that will be a challenge. David has a question here for us. What is the investment strategy for the pension plan, and what has been the average return of monies over the last 5 years? Is it expected that Compass continue to manage the funds in the most economic means to maximize the return? Great questions, David. The short answer is that it depends on your life stage. And so what I mean by that is that if you are enrolled in life stage, which is the default, and you are younger, then it is a more aggressive investment strategy than if you are just before retirement age, right? And so we get very aggressive in the early years, and we get far more conservative in the later years, and that adjusts. And so me personally, I am 49 years old. I will be 50 in October. And I have, over the last 5 years and the last 10 years, been right at about a 10% return after expenses. So that's pretty good for my stage in life, I think. Different people are going to have different results depending upon where they are in their stage in life and whether or not they are in life stage or they chose to personally kind of manage some of those funds. So, for example, I could have chosen not to be in life stage and to kind of personally manage those, and then those results would have been based on the options that I chose. So, David, I hope that answered your question. But yeah, that's the answer basically. So Robert is saying, can you do more than 10% as a pastor? And if so, what is the maximum percentage? Yes, you can do more than 10%. There is not a max. Well, I guess the maximum would be 100. There is a dollar amount maximum, however, that the IRS sets each year, and that will depend on your age to some extent. So it's more of a dollar amount maximum that the IRS sets than that there is a percentage maximum from WestPath. So Robert hope that answers your question. But yes, you can absolutely go to more than 10%. Jim provided a great compound interest calculator, at least according to him. I didn't check it out myself, but I suspect it's a good one. And if you click on that, you can grab that real quick before I put it off of the screen. And I think we have gotten through the Q&A that we have thus far, which is fantastic. And it looks like, all right, perfect. Don says I'm pessimistic. Oh, well, I'm realistic, right? So we just talked about life stage and what life stage is. So that's great, but that is a feature as well. So the percentage value increase for the parsonage, I kind of already talked through that. And so that's a good thing, I think. The student loan provision, I haven't talked through this as much. So if you have student loan payments, I don't want you to make a choice between paying your student loan and putting in your retirement compensation. Now, honestly, I want you to do both. If you at all possibly can, I want you to do both. But obviously, you have to make those payments, right? And so if you are unable to do both, you're probably at minimum salary as a younger pastor, right? And so if you are unable to do both, then you can submit your student loan payments, and we will still submit the match for you up to 4%. So and it'll be a self-certification thing. You'll have to do that by logging into Benefits Access, which is at WestPath. And this actually got passed or informed in the Secure 2.0 legislation that passed Congress, and WestPath is not required to adopt this, but has chosen to adopt this as a provision to sort of comply and fit the same as corporate America would have to do in their plan. So I think that's actually a good thing. However, I will tell you that if you're in that category, try really, really hard to do both, right? Because that compound interest makes such a difference when you are younger. I wish I had put more in when I was younger. Tell me in the chat if you are as old as I am or older and wish you had contributed more when you were younger. Just say yes. And if you wish you had contributed less, say no. And I have a feeling I know what these answers are going to be, right? So if you wish you had contributed more, say yes. If you wish you had contributed less, say no. So if you are a younger person, look in the chat right now. You will not regret contributing more, right? And so if you can at all possibly do that when you're younger, it makes such a big difference with the compound interest. So we do have some automatic features. We are going to auto enroll you at 4%, and we are going to auto escalate you over time. I kind of talked about that. And so we're going to do that by default, and that will be, I think, a good thing for us. So if you are contributing $0 now, first of all, shame on you. But we're going to auto-enroll you, assuming you're an eligible participant, at 4% before tax. So that's what we're going to automatically do. If you are contributing less than 4%, then we are going to auto-enroll you at 4% of whatever type you have already chosen. And if you're contributing more than 4%, then you can still contribute more than 4%, and I applaud you. And so that is the answer there. Life stage. Let's talk a little bit more about life stage. So life stage is the personalized investment management allocation tool. And basically, it does a quarterly review, rebalances your accounts as needed, and manages your investments during active service and retirement. Now, it is required for contributions that we are making on your behalf. Your personal contributions, you can choose to opt out and personally manage those. But the contributions that the conference is sending on your behalf, you will be automatically enrolled in Life Stage. I would encourage you to be in Life Stage pretty much across the board, unless you're a licensed investment advisor yourself. If we don't have too many of those that are our clergy. And if you are one, let me know, because I would love to know about you, actually. Because I'm not aware of any that we have in the annual conference among our active clergy. So if there are some, I'd love to know. But anyway, bottom line is we will enroll you into Life Stage automatically, and you can opt out of Life Stage for your personal contributions piece of that if you choose. But I encourage you to stay in Life Stage. In retirement, we're going to optimize your retirement savings. And you do have a couple of options when you retire. And so you can use retirement savings early to attain maximum Social Security benefits if you choose to do that. You can also do a deferred annuity that won't begin until age 80 to establish some lifetime income. You're going to have multiple options when you retire that we'll look at that point along with Compass. All right, looks like we had a question come in. A few questions come in. And let me go grab them. Okay, so this question comes from Chris. He says, for the student loan situation where your percentage still increase each year, how does that work? So yes is the answer to that, Chris. So the match is up to 4%, right? That's the maximum match. So you can use your student loan to do up to the 4%. So if your student loan equates to 1% and you don't make any additional contributions, then you would get a 1% match. If your student loan equates to 4% or greater, then you would get a 4% match. So it's just a way to help you get the free money, the matched money, when you are in the student loan payment process. Now, when you get to year 2, let's say that you had a student loan that was at 2%, and then you were making a contribution at 2%, that totaled 4%, and you were then able to qualify for the 4% match. We're still going to auto escalate you by that 1% each year on your contribution side until you reach 10%. So I hope that answers your question. But again, I really encourage you to try to do both. Okay, let's get moving a little bit here. So obviously, it's really, really important that our clergy partner with us, right? You need to contribute that 4% to unlock the full match. You are wasting money if you are not contributing the 4%. Your church is paying it for you regardless. Let us forward it to Westpath and put it in your account. But to do that, you've got to pay at least the 4% in your personal contribution, right? Then we're going to auto-enroll you at that 4%. But you could go into Westpath and sign a form and say, don't take my money. Don't do that. That's dumb. Get the free money, right? We're trying to help you out here. So, but contribute what you can afford. And we actually offer a free benefit from Ernst & Young. It's free financial planning services that can help you to get where you need to be. And I'll tell you a little bit about how to contact Ernst & Young or EY in a bit. So what do you need to do? What do you need to know? You need to review your personal contributions. You need to sit down with your spouse, and you need to make sure that you are prepared to do at least 4% on January 1 of 2026. Now, most of you are already there because I moved the default on the pastor support worksheet last year to 4%. So you had to sort of move it to less than that for it to be less than that, right? So most of you are already going to be at least 4%. I also want you to make sure that you have named beneficiaries. Don't be in a situation where you pass away and you have not named your beneficiaries, right? You can log on to WestPath Benefits Access and take care of that. You can also call in. They'll send you a form, and you can do it that way as well. I want you to understand your current retirement projection. We're going to walk through that in just a minute, what that looks like. And I want you to reach out to Ernst & Young and see how they can help you if you feel like that would be beneficial to you. What's the roadmap look like? Well, we are in quarter 3 of 2025 right now. And obviously, we're doing this webinar. I'll be around the annual conference this week in different locations, talking about this in person as well. In quarter 4, we are going to do straight from WestPath some mailings and webinar options that they will be doing. And then in quarter 1 of 2026, it obviously launches, right? Here is a QR code you can scan, or the URL you can go to if you want to get some information directly from WestPath. And that should be updated on a fairly regular basis. But I want to show you some math real quick. So we're going to look at 3 different clergy persons: clergy person A, clergy person B, and clergy person C. In all of these cases, we are assuming a 40-year service period. So each of these persons will have put in 40 years of service. And we are assuming a moderate investment profile, so only a 7% return. Now, remember, for the last decade, have averaged 10% a year in my own WestPath account. But we're going to assume 7%. So we're going to be conservative on that. And we're going to assume that this clergy person is full-time and that they get an average salary increase of 2.5% a year. So that's kind of what we're assuming in each of these scenarios, just to put every clergy person, A, B, and C, on equal footing. If they start with a 1% contribution rate and do not have automatic escalation, by the way, this was possible under our existing plan, right? It was possible. We didn't have automatic escalation under our existing plan at all. And it was possible for you to select, or is possible for you to select 1%. In many cases, if you select 1%, you stick with 1%. And so you end up with a 38% income replacement at retirement. Now, I think we would all agree that that is not sufficient to fund your retirement, right? And that is bad. So we don't want that to be a possibility. What if you start at 4%, but we didn't have automatic escalation in place? You ended up at a 2/3 or 66% income replacement. That also is a lot better than 38%, but not fantastic. Now, with a 4% initial rate and automatic escalation that runs until 10%, you would end up with an 89% income replacement. So let me ask you an obvious question. Tell me in the chat, would you rather be clergy person A, clergy person B, or clergy person C when you retire? Which of these 3 options sounds like the one you would like to be when you retire? A, B, or C? Yeah, it's a really obvious answer. C is the only answer, right? And so hopefully this helps you to understand why the provisions are put into place the way that they are with the automatic escalation to get you to the 10%. We want to make sure that our clergy are well supported into retirement under the Compass plan. So I hope that this chart really helps you to understand exactly why we are doing what we are doing. So James asked me to put this page up again. So I'm doing that for just a moment so that you can grab that. And we have a couple of questions here. So I'm going to give just a moment for you to scan that, about 30 more seconds, and then I'm going to get to a couple of questions. So Don asked a question. Where can we get the annual dollar amount contribution limit based on our age? Great question. The quick answer is google.com IRS IRA limit. Now, technically, this isn't an IRA, but it's the same. You could also do IRS 403B contribution limit. That is technically the section of the code that this falls under, but you won't remember that. So it's the same on both sides, both the IRA and the 403B side. But the technical thing would be IRS space 403B space contribution space limits. And that'll pull up what the current numbers are in any given year. So hopefully that answered your question, Don. And that does adjust year to year. So that's the best advice I can give you. So you can look every year. Will has a question here. And his question is, are the income replacement numbers I'm showing assuming Social Security payouts? And the answer to that is yes, Will, they are. All right. Perfect. So I think we've been answering some pretty good questions over time. I will tell you that the projection tool has been updated, and that is good news from my perspective, because that means that we can make the adjustments and see the things that we need to see. And so what I am going to do now is actually, assuming I can get to this screen, I'm going to pull this one over here. Give me just a moment. Perfect. All right, we are going to log into my own account. I can't share anybody else's, but I can legally share my own information, right? So we're going to log into my account. Now, for those of you that don't know me, I am a local pastor. And so my income is not as high as a lot of our clergy in the annual conference, but we're going to use my numbers. And we're going to do that because I want to show you that even with, less years of service than many of you and less income than many of you, you can still do okay, and kind of how to run your own projections and see what everything looks like. So when you log in, this is what it looks like. Now, this is my own account. So, wouldn't it be great if it were better? But this is my own account. So in my own account, you can see that I am currently projected to have 95.3% income replacement currently, right? And so that is my current projection. And you can look at the retirement details and kind of see what that looks like. So you can see that my 5-year rate of return has been 9.9%. My 3-year rate of return has been 10.8%. My 1-year rate of return has been 9.6%. So kind of like I showed you, I've been hovering right around the 10% mark. And you can look at my different things. Now, again, my income is lower than a lot of people, but enrolling in Life Stage is a good idea. So what you can do is you roll right into here, log in, and you'll be able to see kind of what your current projections look like based on your current numbers. And then you can also make some adjustments. You'll also be able to see whether you're enrolled in our CPP, the Comprehensive Protection Plan, that gives you your disability and your life insurance benefits. And you'll be able to kind of look at those details as well. Now, if you go up here to retirement, then again, you can see what some of these look like. You can manage your investment options if you wanted to here for your stuff. You can see kind of what your allocations are. You can look at your retirement projections. You can look at what are the assumptions. You can, and I lowered this to 4% to show this today. So you can see all of these things, look at the contribution details, and you can see it all, right? So just wanted to show you how you can log in to your own account and be able to see exactly what that looks like. So in my case, I'm appointed at Auburn, and I adjusted this to 4% because I wanted to show it at 4% today based on the future projections and growing at 1% a year. So I set this up like most of you will be when you come into Compass, right? And so you can see what these elections are and how these numbers break down. Now, the point is not for you to get excited about my particular numbers. Your numbers are going to be a little bit different, right? The point is to show you how you can log in. So you're going to go to, let me log out to the login page. You're going to go to my.benefitsaccess.org/login. And that is how you can log in there. So that is the best way to do that. And I am going to throw that URL into the chat, or I thought I was. Let me see if I can do that a different way. Okay. All right, perfect. And so hopefully that kind of helps you to understand how that works. So let's see if we have any questions for me to throw up. Enrollment in life stage is automatic. That is correct, Lisa. Enrollment is in life stage is automatic unless you have opted out and chosen to change your stuff, and then you can re-enroll in it if you want. But yeah, enrollment in life stage will be automatic with Compass. Good question. All right, I hope that this has been helpful. I'm going to shift to health and the pastor support worksheet in just a moment, but tell me in the chat whether you feel like you have learned what you needed to learn about Compass, or if you have any other questions that you feel like you need to get answered, give them to me quickly, because I'm going to shift gears into health and also into the pastor support worksheet here for the last 40 minutes or so. So just tell me helpful or yes if you feel like you've gotten your answers and that it was worth your time today to come and to learn about Compass. All right, perfect. Looks like most people have gotten benefit and kind of gotten what they need there. So what I'm going to do now, and oops, I need to get rid of this question so you can see my screen. All right, so I am going to share the health insurance rates now. That is one of the things that we told you we would do. So this is the 2026 rate sheet. And the first question that many of you are going to have is, what is your direct invoice amount for your church going to be? And that is going to be $13.67 a month. So for those of you who are trying to do your budgets, that is $13.67 a month. Or if you're looking at that on an annual basis, it is $16,404. So $13.67 a month is the direct invoice amount for healthcare for the churches, or annually that is $16,404. So that is the direct invoice healthcare rate. Obviously, for our clergy, there are a couple of different options. You can choose the S plan. You can choose the P plan. If you are in Virginia or Georgia, you should choose the S plan, unless you are going back into Tennessee to do your health care. There is no difference in the S plan or P plan when you are outside of the state of Tennessee. If you are in Tennessee, then you need to look at the two networks for the doctors and hospitals that you want to go to. The P network has a few more providers in it. The S network is what Blue Cross calls their standard network. But the prices are a little bit different. And so you will be able to kind of see what that looks like depending upon the plan that you choose. I'm not going to go over the specific rates, but they are here and they are on page 2 of the pastor support worksheet. The pastor support worksheet is available to you in the handouts tab. And so hopefully you have seen that. And by the way, I'm going to launch a poll question that I want you to answer real quick that will just help me to know how to go through this pastor support worksheet a little bit to help me to know who our audience is today. And that will help me, again, just to tailor how I do this next part a little bit. So if you would answer that for me, then that would be helpful. And then we're going to go through the pastor support worksheet. All right. Good. All right. It looks like we have 116 responses so far. We have 163 of us currently on the webinar. So I'll give you about another 15 seconds or so. All right, Linda has a great question. What are we being automatically enrolled in January 1 of 2026? So that is the retirement plan. If you are at 50 or 75 or 100, you'll be automatically enrolled into Compass. So that'll be in Compass. All right. And okay, Caroline's asking, should I switch to P if all of my doctors are in Tennessee? Check your doctors and see if they're covered on the S plan. If all of them are on the S plan, then you don't need to switch to P. And I believe that all of Ballot is on the S plan, so that's probably who you're dealing with in the Bristol area. So you probably are fine with S, but check your specific. All right. Perfect. I think we answered that one. I think we answered this one. All right. We are going to go through, let me look at the poll real quick. All right. Looks like we're about 41% clergy, and then about 22% treasurer, about 12% SPR or PPR chair. Okay, perfect. I'm going to go ahead and close that poll. That gives me enough information. All right, so we are going to now go through the pastor support worksheet. This is the 2026 pastor support worksheet. If you happen to have multiple screens, I live with multiple screens, and that's probably because of what I do in addition to being a clergy person. But if you happen to have multiple screens, I'm going to encourage you to put on one of your screens your pastor support worksheet, and then leave the webinar on one of your screens. If you have a laptop and a desktop, pull up the pastor support worksheet on your whichever one you're not on the webinar on. Might be helpful as well. If not, then you'll be able to kind of go through this later. So first thing that I want to point out is that the revision date is at the top of the pastor support worksheet. That just helps us to know what version of the pastor support worksheet you are working on. So the version you're looking at now was revised as recently as yesterday. And actually I revised it this morning and didn't update the date, but I didn't release anything yesterday. So this August 19th version is the one that is the most recent. If you have any other version than the August 19, 2025 version, you are not looking at the right version, right? Because this is the current one that we are working off of. So this is the 2026 pastor support worksheet. There's a couple of things you're going to notice are different right off the bat. First of all, there's a big red thing here that says choose your district. So in previous years, we defaulted here to the Appalachian district in recent years because it was the A. I took the default out and it just looks like a blank box. And if you don't choose your district, then that's a bad thing. So what you need to do is to click into the box. And then once you click into the cell, the drop down will appear. Does that make sense to everyone? So it's blank. You have to click into the box and then the drop down will appear. So I'm going to select New River because that's the district in which I serve. And this pastor, we are going to call test pastor. And the last four digits of this test pastor are 9999. Now, you'll notice that there's a big green clergy status. This is another one where historically it has defaulted to FE or full elder. And we heard from our administrative assistants in the district office that was creating trouble because some people never updated it and then everything was wrong. So it's blank now, and I made it green because if you don't fill this out, the form does not work. I need you to start in this top part, right? So I'm going to select it. I am a local pastor. So I'm going to select, actually for this test pastor, I'm going to select a full elder. We'll come back and do some different options in a minute. So the next thing I want to point out is that you cannot edit this percentage of time. This calculation is automatically generated as the form is completed. Now, I put that note here, but that doesn't mean everyone reads, right? So don't click in here and go, and try to edit it because it'll move to the box above it. And then you'll have problems like I just did, right? So you cannot edit that. It is automatically calculated. We're going to enter in our charge, and we're going to call this one sample charge, right? Okay. Now, we're going to run this first one, assuming there's only a single station, single church. And so this elder, we are going to put at 50,000. And you're going to notice when I do that, that it calculated this elder to be at 3/4 time. That is because the minimum salary for 2026, the equitable comp number, is 50,750. If you're curious about what the number is, we've placed those down here for you for the different statuses that equitable comp defined. If equitable comp did not define a minimum salary for that status, then it is not listed here. That is determined by the equitable comp committee. Okay? All right. Now, I want you to notice, though, if I change this status, for example, to a provisional elder, now it's full-time because that 50,000 is above the provisional elder minimum. Does that make sense to everybody? So it is super, super important that this clergy status is selected right off the bat. If it is not selected, then that's why I have it show up green here. As soon as you click into the box, it'll give you the drop down, you select what it is, and the green will disappear. So this is new on this year's pastoral support worksheet. Just type understand into the chat if you're understanding that it's really, really important that you select the right thing up here or the rest of the form does not work right. So just say understand if you understand that. Perfect. So the reason we defaulted it before is that the whole form breaks if nothing is selected, but we were having trouble with people not selecting and then we were getting the wrong result. So that's the reason that we changed this year. All right, so we're going to continue. This pastor is at 3/4 time because we now have it as a full elder at 50,000. And now we are going to move down to some different options. So we're going to put in continuing ed of 2,500, annual conference expense of 1,500, and vouchered expense of 6,500, right? That means that we have total reimbursable expenses, or what should show up on your accountable reimbursement form, of $10,500. You, assuming you did not move, will not put anything on one-time moving expense. If you move this year, obviously you'll put that there. And then it's going to calculate your benefits. So this 100% just means what percentage is that church paying. Now, in this case, we only have one church, so that's an obvious answer. It's going to automatically calculate your pension and your health insurance. However, these are not right yet. The reason they're not right is you have not completed the form. So don't email me and say, Knox, the form is wrong. I got the wrong answer. It's because you haven't completed the form, right? Now watch what happens as soon as I click into here and say that I live in a parsonage. Now that parsonage has been valued at 35%, which in this case is $17,500. And you'll notice that the pension amount went from $7,000 to $9,450. That is because we're now working off of a different pensionable plan compensation total. It's now $67,500. So let me show you that again. With no parsonage, no housing in here, we were at $50,000 because that is the base, right? We do not get the right answers along the way for pension until we select housing. So in this case, I'm going to do a $20,000 housing allowance. Now it's going to automatically calculate that my plan compensation total is the addition of the cash salary and the housing expense, which in this case means $70,000. It's going to automatically multiply by 14%, and it's going to get the $9,800 sitting here. But the moment that I go to zero there, I have the wrong answer. If I live in a parsonage, then I'm going to say I live in a parsonage. It's going to value that at 35% of the base of the cash salary. And now it's going to calculate these correctly. So just tell me in the chat, put a number 1 if you understand that you have to complete through housing before all of these numbers are correct. Just put a number 1 if you understand that. Perfect. Every year I get emails or phone calls that say, Knox, the form is broken. And it's because people haven't completed it yet, right? So hopefully we don't have this problem this year. All right. Now we're going to come down to where we're going to make our elections for Compass. So remember that we are going to default to 4% pre-tax or tax deferred. That's going to be what we default to, which in this case is $2,700 annually. Now, if I want to change that to say 10%, I could do that, right? I simply change it right here. If I want it to be 5%, I can do that. If I want it to be 7%, I can do that, right? But 4% is the minimum amount to enroll you. All right. Now, what if I would rather put into a Roth account and not be tax deferred? Then I can go to 0 here and do 4 here, and it's going to move the money to here. So hopefully that's making sense to everyone. We're going to default to up here. I will tell you that part of the reason that I encourage everyone to put at least a portion in here is that if you are clergy and you enter a retired clergy status, then you can get your housing allowance in retirement status and reduce your pension amount by your housing expenses. And what that means is that your actual compensation will be less than you are thinking. And so there is an increased benefit to using a before tax calculation here. The other reason there's an increased benefit is you are avoiding self-employment tax with every dollar that you are putting into pre-tax. So for example, if I am putting into pre-tax this $2,700, then I'm not paying income tax on that in the year that I file this year, but I'm also not paying self-employment tax. Self-employment tax is 15.3%. It's actually slightly more complicated than that, but essentially it's 15.3%. So by avoiding that, you do not pay self-employment tax when you're in a retired status, assuming you're retired and not actively serving. And so you are avoiding the self-employment tax by putting this in a pre-tax environment. So if you want to also contribute to Roth, that's fine. But I would encourage all active clergy who plan to retire with a clergy status to have at least part of what they put up here, because there are benefits for clergy, tax benefits for clergy of having it be in this scenario. All right. I hope that that is helpful to everyone. For those that don't know, I am a credentialed tax person, so I can legally give you tax advice. And that is what that just was. So obviously that is generic in nature, and you'll need to talk to your tax professional about your specific scenario. But generically speaking, what I just said is very, very true. So this is going to tell you what your annual Compass contribution is, and it's also going to tell you what your monthly Compass contribution is. So Tom, if you go to the handouts tab, there is an Excel file that you can download, and you complete this in Excel. Your Roth contribution is not tax deferred. That is correct. All right. Let's see what questions we have that have popped up. Looks like we may have a few. The pastor support workshop in the handout does not have page 2. Is that true for everybody? Is everybody having that problem where you're not seeing the page 2 that has the health insurance rates? Just tell me if that is true for everybody. If it is, I will delete it and re-upload it. Okay. Okay, that's true. So let me fix that. So I am going to delete the pastor support worksheet and re-upload it, because that is actually the very last change that I made. So apparently the webinar opened before I re-uploaded. So let me fix that. Okay. I just reshared it, so it should be available to you there now. So hopefully that helps you. If not, we will have it available on the website eventually. It's not there yet. I literally just got approval from the cabinet about 45 minutes before this webinar started for this pastor support worksheet. So it's not on the website yet. I haven't even sent it to Tim to put up yet, but this is hot off the presses, if you will. I finished it this morning and the cabinet approved it this morning. So extremely recent. All right. And okay, so it looks like a couple of people are having trouble seeing the health insurance rates. Just move the field over. I'll fix it before I send it to Tim, but I did that very, very quickly at the last minute. So I just didn't make the field large enough is all that means. The info is there. If you just grab the Excel file, I'm in the Excel line and move it over, then you'll be able to see it. If you don't live in a parsonage, say no, even though your church may give you a housing allowance. Correct. If you don't live in a parsonage, you say no, and you put the housing allowance amount in. So in that scenario, let me come back to the pastor support worksheet here. So we would select no here, and we would put in the cash housing amount. So for example, 10,000 is my cash housing allowance. I would put that there, and you can see how the numbers move. 15,000, 25,000, whatever your cash. Oops, probably not that high, right? But whatever your cash housing allowance is, then you would put that here and make sure you put no for the parsonage. So hopefully that answered your question. Good questions. All right, let's see what other questions we have here. We have pastors who prefer a much larger contribution and have traditionally added on the PSWs a flat dollar amount. Yeah, so the flat dollar amount did used to be there. With Compass, it goes away. And so you need to put a percentage now. So if you have an amount, figure out the percentage and put it in there. But yeah, we're not doing flat dollar amounts with Compass anymore. Everything is as a percentage. So that is the answer to that question. All right. Lisa says she has page 2 now. Donna says she has page 2. Perfect. So handouts are available on the handouts tab right here in the Big Marker platform. Yes. So let me put this question up. The question is, the new Compass portion, is that on the PSW? So the answer to that is yes, it is. And so if you look back over here at the pastor support worksheet, this line 7A shows the pension amount, and that is the pension direct bill, the Compass church portion that will be billed. So in this particular scenario that we are looking at right now, it would be 10.5 for this particular pastor. How is that calculated? We take the cash salary, we add to it the housing amount. We get a planned compensation total, in this case, of $75,000. We multiply that times 14%, and that's what this 10.5 is, right? If I moved this to, for example, 20,000, then this would be 70, and the 14% you can see reduced in this case to 9,800. So the form will auto-calculate everything for you, assuming you finish it and complete it, right? And so that is the way that that works. And hopefully you think it works well. Now, there's a couple other things that I need to tell you about the pastor support worksheet. And one of them is, actually, let me answer Tom's question. If there are no changes to the current worksheet, do you need to submit a new one? Yes, 2026 does require a new form. First of all, every year you have to have a new form. So that hasn't really changed. But also we are enrolling in Compass this year. The calculations do change. The pension amount changes. So it's not going to be exactly the same. So yes, even if your compensation doesn't change, your base doesn't change, some of the other calculations will change, and you will need a new form. Now, some of you will have noticed that we're not making our health insurance election actually on the pastor support worksheet this year. So that is new. We're making our retirement election, but we're not making our health insurance election here. So the church portion of the health insurance still shows up top, but the clergy portion, the pastor's portion of the health insurance election is actually made during open enrollment. So that's going to happen in Employee Navigator. And you will be able in Employee Navigator to make that election. The problem that we have had, frankly, for the last couple of years is that there are persons who have elected something different on the pastor support worksheet than they have in open enrollment, and it confuses treasurers. And so that is a problem, and we don't want to have that problem, right? And so that is one of the reasons that it's disappearing here. All other annual conferences have removed it from their pastor support worksheet, and so we are also doing that effective this year. And so that is a change. By the way, for those that were having trouble seeing the rates, let me blow this up a little bit, but here are the rates in a way that you can probably see them a little bit clearer. So these are the clergy rates, and you can see kind of what these are. And so participant only on the HSA-S plan is $120. Participant plus one would be $209. These are monthly amounts, $392 for the family. And of course, we make an HSA contribution for you at $600 or $1,200, depending on whether it's participant only or participant plus, right? So that is a great deal. And then on the copay plan, you can see what those look like as well. If you go to the P plan, it costs a little more for that network, so you can kind of see what those look like. Claire's question, there's no longer a bottom line on the PSW that matches the W-2. That is correct. And the reason for that is that without the health insurance deduction, I cannot determine the W-2 amount. Now, what I will tell you is that in January, I'm going to do another webinar, and we will do a training for treasurers and clergy as well on how to calculate your W-2. And so we're going to do that this year since we didn't include it on the pastor support worksheet. But we will have a training in January. It will be free, and it will walk our treasurers through how to calculate the W-2. So that will happen in January, probably around the second or third week of January is what I'm targeting for that one. So hopefully that answers that question, but that is a change this year. Absolutely. All right. Hopefully everyone can see these rates clearly, and that is helpful to you. Let me actually save this one. All right, so I am going to actually upload this as a handout for you, assuming I can get to that screen. And you can download this PDF if you want to with the rates. Some of you are saying you were having trouble seeing the rates, so let me upload this for you. And that is now shared as an additional handout. So if you want to go to the handouts tab and you want this PDF version that Julie made for us that looks cute and a lot better than the version that I gave you, then you are able to see that now. And it also includes the lay employees, by the way, if you wanted to be able to see that. But Julie's got that available for you. And so I just uploaded that for you. And you can see that now. All right. Close all this. Back to the PSW. Any other questions that are about either the health insurance amount or questions on the PSW? I'm going to show with a second church involved now, unless we have more questions based on one church. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and add a second church in. Remember, we're at 50,000 on the first church. Now we're going to have a second church. It's a small church, and it is at 10,000. Now, before I hit enter here, I want you to notice we're at 3/4 time because we're below minimum salary. But as soon as I hit the 10, now we are above minimum salary, and it switched automatically to full-time, right? And so Church 2 is not contributing anything except for the benefits. They are going to pay 10%, and that means we need to lower Church 1 to 90%, right? And it will automatically calculate for you what that is when you do that. And everything else kind of remains the same, right? So that's the way it works. Now, what if you are on equitable comp? And that means that the annual conference is actually supplying some support for you. So in this case, we're at 40,000. Minimum salary is 50,750 for a full elder. So we're going to have 17.5 available. And that now moves us into the full-time status. And we are clearly showing, and it is very important to put it in this category so that the annual conference actually sends you the payment. All right. But that is where equitable comp goes. If you're on sustentation, then that would be a similar deal. And so we are now going to adjust this to say that we're at 50 here. And we have I'm just going to use real round numbers. We have 10,000 of sustentation. Similarly, this is paid by the annual conference. And so you'll see how that works. Now, don't worry so much about the numbers themselves. I'm just showing how it works. Okay. So any questions about that? Okay, good question. Typically speaking, Lisa is asking the question, who's going to get the direct bill? And let me actually get to that screen. So I'm going to move this to the Q&A. And then on the Q&A side, I can throw it on the screen. So the question was, will Church 2 be direct billed? Also in the past, I believe there's only one church. Yeah, so we prefer to bill only the lead church. So that'll be the one that's in Church 1 category. That is the preference. And so ideally, you are going to have one church billed and the other church would just send that church the payment, right? We want to have one treasurer that we are relating to, and that should be the charge treasurer. We also have another question that came up here. Our pastor is quarter-time licensed local pastor and no benefits or retirements. Those will be zero. Yep. So in this case, we have a retired local. And so let me show you actually how this works. So we would choose, she said it was RL2. So we're going to choose RL2. Now, when we do that, I need to lower this. And what time did she say? Quarter time. So I need to lower this more. Sustentation needs to go away. Okay, now we are quarter time. Couple of things to notice. First of all, a brand new field showed up that you have never seen before. That is auto-calculated. You will only see it if you are a retired local pastor. General Conference, in all of their wisdom, has created some new statuses that now exist, part-time local retired and full-time local retired. And so you will actually be recorded into the system as a PLR in this case. Thank you. I didn't take down the question, so you can't see what I'm doing. Thank you, Beth, for pointing that out to me. So, but this is how we would do that. We would select the status up here, just like you always have. So in this case, RL2, it is going to automatically know that this is a part-time local. It's going to create that. This is a field you've never seen before, but this is the field that will actually be imported when Brandy in the clergy services office, the secretary's office, actually takes care of this. That's the field, that's the status that will be recorded because that is the new status from General Conference. That only applies to retired locals. Now, if this was a full-time retired local, then you would see FLR over here because that is the new status for full-time retired local or local retired. So good question. And again, that status only appears when it is a retired local pastor of some sort. So you won't see that field show up, that cell show up in any other scenario. So no, Linda, Church 2 would not be billed. Only Church 1 would be billed, and Church 2 needs to send the payment to Church 1. All right, next question is, can I show a 3-point charge? And yes, I am happy to show a 3-point charge. So let's do that now. So we'll just do it right on this same form. We'll do the same scenario. And in this case, we're going to lower this to 80% and 10 and 10. We have to make sure we get to 100% over here. If we haven't gotten 100%, something is wrong. And now everything is correct, right? So this is a provisional elder. That's what PE is, a provisional elder. full-time status in this scenario, and a 3-point charge. So that's how that works. It's really pretty straightforward, pretty simple. We're still going to make all of the same elections. So hopefully that answered your question, Diane, and it was helpful. If anyone has any other questions, feel free to throw those into the Q&A tab. If you want me to show a particular scenario, let me know and I'll show it. But otherwise, we are coming to the end of our time. Looks like we may have a Q&A here. So our churches 2 and 3 paying $5,000 plus $1,120 for pension. Yes, in this particular scenario, that is exactly what this is showing. So churches 2 and 3 are paying $5,000. They're also contributing 10%, which in this case is $1,120. Now this 10% is going to be forwarded to church 1, right? But this is going to show them what their total compensation is. So in their case, it's going to be $77.60 for both church 2 and church 3. Now, if church 1 is paying 100% and church 2 is not contributing anything, nor church 3, then you can see how that is reflected as well here, right? So whatever scenario, same thing here. If we were going to like 10,000 on this, 5,000 towards the housing from each of these. So whatever scenario you have, you put into the pastor support worksheet, and it will be able to show each of the churches what they have. The other thing I want to highlight is that I added the signatures back this year. This was a cabinet request. So we added the signatures back this year that show exactly who has approved this and what all of that looks like. I have someone asking me to show a quarter-time local pastor. And so we will do that now. So part-time local, we're going to assume a PL2. So that is a quarter-time local pastor with 3 churches, a 3-point charge. And this is exactly what their scenario looks like. Now, in this case, this is probably, well, whatever. That's the way that would work. So this may not look like that, right? It may look more like that. But whatever the case is, this is what a part-time local would look like. So hopefully that was helpful, Donna. All right. So tell me in the chat real quick if this has been helpful and you think you now understand how to complete the pastor support worksheet. Oh, good question. John says, where is the amount entered for the housing allowance resolution? Great question. I didn't show that. So thank you for pointing that out. Housing allowance resolution goes here. It goes under church A. So 25,000, for example, goes right there. And that does get approved at charge conference. So perfect. Is an Adobe digital signature acceptable for the pastor support worksheet? Yes, Paul. You can use a digital signature. All right. Well, thank you all for attending today. We may have one more question. Let me look in the Q&A real quick. Yes, that was just a helpful. Good. So glad that this has been helpful to you. I hope that you all learned something. For those of you watching the recording, thank you for being with us. We are glad that you are with us today as well. And we look forward to seeing you in our next webinar, our next conference-wide webinar from the Board of Pensions and Health Benefits will be in January as we walk through how to do the W-2. And so how to prepare the W-2. For those of you that I might be seeing in person this week, I will be at Cokesbury this evening. I will be at Ottawa tomorrow. I will be at Muncie Saturday. And I will be at St. Paul in Wytheville on Sunday. So God bless. All of you take care. Glad that this has been helpful. And we will see you next time.